Good afternoon. Welcome to the in-service today. Thanks everybody for coming. I know how busy you are. Every day is just amazing here, isn't it? A domestic violence shelter is an emergency, crisis-oriented place at times, and it's challenging. And so I know that when you come here to in-services, you're thinking about things you could be doing. So I'm going to make it worth your time and effort to be here. And I'm not going to waste a lot of time with introductions. But I'm going to teach you about something that I have been learning in graduate school, and that is an approach that's called narrative therapy. Before I do that, let me ask you to think about a few things. Think about the last time, maybe the last few times, that you were talking to a woman, one of our clients here at the shelter, and she was telling you about her experiences having been sexually assaulted, having been raped. And as she talked about them, you could see how deep the hurt was, how lasting the impact was, and how it influenced her life up to this point and still did. Think about then how you felt in this response. And I know I can relate myself. What I would say that I felt was hopeless in some ways and kind of helpless. Very, very sad that she had had to experience these things in the past, maybe in the very recent past, and now in the present she was having to deal with domestic violence as well. And I could see that she wasn't sure what to do beyond the next day. And yet I was thinking ahead to trying to help her in some ways rewrite her life. And I guess at the time I didn't know that that would be an actual theory or model, but it is, and it's narrative therapy. I remember also thinking about how desperate and hopeless and afraid she felt. And she was in a crisis mode, the last woman that I'm imagining now. And she had no thought beyond her safety and the safety of her children. But as time went on, she began to think about how her life could be different, and it needed to be different in her own words because of her relationship with her children, and she didn't want them to have to experience this anymore. So I remember at that time committing to learning something about how to do that in a really reasonable way and a helpful way. And you know how we work here in an empowerment mode, and we want people to make their choices about whether to return to situations or not on their own, and to see that they do have options and they do have what it takes to maybe take the next step. So it was very fitting with what we were doing, what we're thinking. Now, I don't want to make it sound like it's easy, because it's certainly not. So as you can imagine, narrative therapy is about people rewriting their lives, finding different ways to define themselves, and this is not easy. Because why? Well, in MSW program, we're learning about orienting theories, one of which is the identity development theory. And orienting theory is one that tells us how people develop over time and what the stages of development might be and how they're influenced in their development by other people or society, for that matter. So identity theory by James Marcia says that people develop their identity over time by trying different things out, by learning about themselves, developing some self-awareness, and that they also do this more effectively when they're encouraged to and when they have the support of other people. I think that applies to a lot of our women. I think that their identity has been shaped by their experiences, and now they see themselves as impacted, maybe damaged, hopeless. They may not see that they have a future or that they have any power to do anything. So their identity is not fully developed, and it's a negative one, in fact. There's another theory that we're learning about, and that's gender socialization theory, and that says that women are impacted and socialized by the things around them, including attitudes by society and images of women, images of men, and we all know for sure that happens because this is where we work. So I've studied narrative therapy in light of all that, because I think those theories help explain why things have happened to people and why the experiences have shaped them. And even though we're not all therapists here at the shelter, I think we could use some of the ideas and techniques of narrative therapy. So I'm going to talk about what it is and what it suggests to us about how women could rewrite their lives and some of the assumptions of that theory and model. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about the research I found, and then we can also talk about it as a group and see what elements of that practice model, that theory, could be used here. So hopefully that sounds good to you. I want to give us all some tools to work with the women that we care about so much. So here we go.